Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea Talks with Jiling, where we share tea conversations and camaraderie with visionary herbalists rippling positive change into their communities by connecting people, plants, and place. I'm Jiling, your host, acupuncturist, herbalist, and yoga teacher in Ventura, California on Herbal Radio, as presented by Mountain Rose Herbs. Welcome to today's Tea Talk with Emily Sanders. Emily is the director and founder of the Artemisia Academy and has been studying holistic health for over 15 years. She's a certified clinical herbalist and clinical nutritionist from the North American Institute of Medical Herbalism and a certified massage therapist from the Santa Barbara Body Therapy Institute. Emily hopes to pass on the knowledge of sustainable living with practical entrepreneurial skills so that herbalists can create thriving practices that fully support themselves, their lands, and their communities. Please make yourself comfortable, pour a cup of your favorite tea, and welcome to today's Tea Talk with Emily Sanders. All right, everyone, welcome Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi, how's it going, Jiling? Thanks so much for having me here.
Yeah, welcome. Will you share with us a little bit about where you're joining us from today and what plants you're growing, gathering, or processing right now?
I'm in my office in Santa Barbara, California. It's a beautiful spring day, and even though most people are growing lots of stuff in their garden, right at the moment, we just had 26-degree weather at my house. So I live up in the mountains of Santa Barbara, and so I luckily transplanted my echinacea while they're still tiny and budding out, but otherwise all that's left in my garden is rosemary, sage, and thyme. So it's winter time still for me.
Yeah, amazing. So here in California, even up at the higher elevation, the rosemary, sage, and thyme are still super hardy and doing okay with the 26 degrees.
Yeah, we just had our first and probably only snow of the year. I love saying that I have snow at my house, but
Wow.
it's nothing like Colorado where I used to live, that's for sure. But yeah, we've got a few hardy plants that survive, and everything else is an annual that is well taken care of, covered, and transplanted in a happier part of the season.
Fantastic. Well, I would love to hear a little bit about Artemisia Academy, your baby that's growing up really, really fast. So why and how did you create Artemisia Academy? And will you share with us a little bit about that project and your school?
Absolutely. So I started herb school a little bit on accident. I started teaching herb walks about 8, 9 years ago. And I started off by doing forage and function workshops with a friend of mine who was an exercise therapist. And within just a few weeks, something happened to her life. She bailed, and I started teaching herb walks. I was like, wait, I'm teaching by myself. What am I doing? And before I knew it, I started loving. I had a great friend from my herb school, from the North American Institute of Medical Herbalism, shared with me, just like, you always wanted to be a teacher. What are you doing? And so I jumped into doing herb walks and continued teaching for quite a few years. And then I was a massage therapist at the time. I gone back and forth between herbs and massage for quite a few years. And my back went out, and at the peak of my career doing 30 hours plus a week, I couldn't work anymore. And so I kind of came back to dreaming up this idea of doing an herbal apprentice program. And before I knew it, I was jumping in, I was teaching weekend classes. I was just loving that I was living my dream. And then Howie Bernstein up in Oregon, he teaches the Columbine School of Botanical Studies. He started stalking me on Instagram or on Facebook, I guess, at the time, and was like, there's no other herb schools down there. Like, why don't you kind of start a school? He gave me that little nudge. That's where I would have started a school if I lived in California. And so I started looking around, and I realized there was only like three other herbal programs in Southern California. And it was actually been my dream for many years to start an herb school. That was what I first talked to Paul Bergner about when I started my herbal studies, about bringing an herb school back to California. And I had just totally forgotten about it along the way. And so it was a lifelong passion that I jumped back into. And as I've been going forward with it, like you said, it's a very fast growing little thing, because when you start following your calling, life starts to happen. And so a lot of opportunities have just kind of presented themselves to me and opened up as the school has started taking off. So
How long has this journey been since inception to now? What year did you begin Artemisia Academy?
Artemisia Academy started in 2017.
2017.
So
So
5 years now. It's
amazing.
hard for me to believe. And I finally went full time with it just a few months before the pandemic hit. And honestly, that was the best thing that could have ever happened. I made the career switch from massage back in herbs at the exact right time, when my massage career was over for 2 years. And I ended up having to go online. I did all my classes in person. And so we've jumped into online learning, and it's been one of the best decisions we could have ever made. We've been reaching people all over California, a lot of people from Los Angeles, from all over the Western states. We've had students from Washington. It's been really fun to see how it's kind of taken on a life of its own since we've made that switch.
Yeah. What are some of the programs that Artemisia Academy has, and what does your curriculum look like?
So we have two programs right at the moment. Our 150-hour Herbal Apprentice program, which is for an introductory, get your feet wet, get into herbalism and see if that's right for you. And then for those who are really interested in taking a career in herbalism, we've developed a 300-hour community herbalist program. And so that really takes people through everything that you need to do to start your own herbal side business, whether you're a medicine maker, a practitioner, a hobbyist, or a harvester. You're going to learn all the different skills that you need to really start making plant medicine your life.
Yeah. So for the level 1 students, or for people who are just getting started on this beautiful journey of learning more about the plants that grow around us in botanical medicines, what are some of your favorite core plant connection practices that you love sharing with students?
So we do a lot of tea tastings in our Herbal Apprentice program. And so I think for people that are new to herbalism, a lot of people take on too many things at once and they get very overwhelmed. And so that's one of the things that I love to focus with people on, is that hands-on learning, taking things slow. And we really offer a mentorship style of learning, where instead of you're just taking an automated online class and you're excited about your teachers, but you don't have that personal connection. Every single one of our instructors have been through the entire process of learning themselves and developing their own practice. And they get to really share their ups, downs, and woes of what it's like to be a medicine maker, what it's like to be a clinician, what it's like to have that journey of becoming an herbalist that can really hold their hand along the way and help them get there. So all of our classes are live and online. And so even though we've gone towards the online learning, we're sitting in class together, still sipping teas. We've got our teacups out every single class, and we're trying all these different herbs, and we're sharing like, oh my gosh, this plant tastes amazing. This herb is disgusting. It tastes like dirt. It tastes like wet rain. And the experiences and facial expressions that we share with each other, the loves and joys of every plant that we do, we're not just getting to learn about a herb conceptually, but we really get to learn and feel it in our body and see the experience of how many different people react to herbs, because no person is going to react exactly the same. And that clinical experience, we start teaching people clinical experiences from the very beginning, that we're going to see such an individualized process, so that it doesn't matter what you read in a book, there will still always be other experiences that people have. And you have to be prepared for that diversity and a range of population as you're working with people. So yeah, the tea tastings, I think, are one of my favorite things. And then we're also doing a lot of time sitting out in nature and doing observations and connections. And I love to teach my students that the medicine isn't something that you can necessarily bottle or put into a package. Some of the best medicine we have is just sitting out under the tree, under the great grandmother oak, and really soaking in the hundreds of years of wisdom that that plant has to offer. And so we get to go out, and we still do some hybrid and in-person courses. Our plant ID course is a 6-week, in the field course. With now we have video recordings of all the plants. so that people can do an online only option as well. So we like to have that hands-on process with everything we do, and really taking people to the experiential approach of how an herb affects them, their body, and seeing how it affects everyone else.
That's almost one of the funnest things about herbalism, I think, is that experiential piece, knowing plants, knowing how to identify plants, knowing how to make medicine, and just having the sense of autonomy, strength, and independence with being able to know and know how to know more easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then for people like younger herbalists, maybe like ourselves, we're on the younger side of the spectrum. For other younger herbalists who might be toying with the idea of starting their own herb school, or who have a similar dream as yourself, what are some of the tips that you have for beginning an herb school?
Well, I like to say dream big, but learn to take smaller bites. As I started, I remember Howie coming out to visit me when I was first getting going, and him being like, okay, so what are you going to do with this? I was like, well, I'm going to have a 1,000-hour program. He's like, wow, that's a really great idea. Like, I'm really excited for you, and so like I've had a lot of beautiful dreams that I've had to narrow down really, to smaller bites as I go. And so for me, like I dream of one day having 5 programs, of having a holistic entrepreneurial program, and a clinical program. But as I'm growing this business, self-care first is the model that I teach with my students, and that self-sustainability piece is so important as an herbalist, a practitioner, and I think even more so as a business owner. We have to learn how to make things sustainable for ourselves so that we're not constantly burning out in the process.
Yeah. So this self-care first model of learning, how do you weave this into the curriculum?
So I teach all of my students that they need to be examples of their own health and teach from their own failures and learning experiences rather than from authority. I know for me, some of my best teachers in the massage and herbal world were amazing, amazing people. But I saw that they were really isolated, and they stopped receiving massage, they stopped drinking herbs, they stopped doing all those self-care things because they were burning out and they weren't taking care of their own health. And so I really love seeing practitioners that practice what they preach, that are out there doing their own healing work. And so I started coining this term called heal healers, where we are first working on our own selves and then working on healing everyone else, so that we're not wounded healers. We're not people that are constantly burning out, helping everyone else because we're so passionate about it, but then breaking apart ourselves over and over again. So we really, through the entire first program, I'm constantly making people come back to, okay, what do you need to do for self-care? What is your primary focus for taking care of yourself right now? And every single week we go through different vitalist practices of meditation, or eating better, or all these different baby steps of how can you take care of your body? What herbs do you need to take right now so that you're making sure your self-care is a priority and not the last thing?
Lots and lots of nervines. Cheers.
Nervines.
Lots
I've
and
got
lots of
my
nervines.
passion flower, holy basil, rose, and lemon balm here. All
Oh,
my good.
nice. We're overlapping. I've got rose, lemon balm, and Damiana.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
So with these herbs and with this concept of self-care first, and prioritizing taking care of yourself and healing yourself as a healer before prioritizing other people, what is your favorite, or some of your favorite self-care tactics that you use to prevent burnout?
I love that question. For me, it's camping and nature retreats. I started teaching business classes many years ago, and I realized that I could create my own business model. And that was like such a brilliant, revolutionary thing of like, I could do anything I want. And so one of the things that I did was schedule into my practice quarterly retreats. And so I take a week off every quarter and a weekend off. I mean, out in nature, away, unplugged, you name it, go camping, backpacking, whatever, at least once per month. And those two things are like the most grounding, essential things for me to go out someplace, be out under the stars. That's where I get all my good Instagram pictures, is the amazing sunrises and sunsets out camping. But, really just building in and plugging that into my calendar before I schedule anything else for the year is scheduling my vacations. And then after that, it's like, regular massage and making my own weekly, monthly teas and tinctures and everything else. So.
And as a small business owner, that is huge. That's amazing that you're carving out the space to do that.
I can't imagine running my business without it at this point.
Yeah, amazing. Well, what are some other self-care strategies that folks can easily implement into their day-to-day lives right now?
I think morning rituals are essential. I wrote a whole blog post last year on it because I realized I was talking to my students like every day for weeks about like, you got to carve out your little morning time. For so many people, especially like in healthcare fields and moms and just women in general, we tend to be caretakers. And in that role, so often we're putting everyone else first. And then we forget to eat, we forget to feed ourselves, we forget to do our time. And so one of the first practices that I teach people is to start carving out a little bit of time in your morning every single day where you are literally putting yourself first in the entire day of taking care of yourself and filling up your needs. And so for me, morning rituals can be a completely huge, diverse range of things from, being active and doing like yoga and hiking and walking or whatever, to being super zen and doing your meditation or doing some inspirational reading, or sometimes it's just sitting down and drinking a cup of tea or coffee and having a moment where no one gets to talk to you. I think that's an essential part of my day.
Nice. So that kind of reflects what you spoke of before with carving out and actually scheduling in time for yourself, putting it on the calendar, or in some way making this time sacred and essential, because it is.
It's so essential. And so this is one of the skills that we teach that we don't even advertise. We teach boundaries. And I think that's like, I remember going through years of holistic health training and never really being taught this concept that I actually literally have to create a little space for me in everything that I do, everywhere I show up. I create a container for myself and for my own healing. And I make sure that, I'm going to therapists and I'm going to doctors and I'm going to other herbalists and massage therapists and all these different things, so that I'm making that boundary that my life, my self-care, my healing, and my needs are just as important as everyone else's. Yeah, I think it's huge.
Beautiful. Well, Emily, what are some projects that are currently alive for you in the school right now, and what's on the horizon?
Thank you for asking. So we have our holistic gardener course starting next week, and that's pretty exciting to me. One of the things that I've been dreaming up for a long time is a holistic homesteader program where hopefully, I think we're one of the first herb schools, maybe not. If there's another one, please let me know. But I think we're one of the first ones that are really trying to put together an entire program on holistic life skills and holistic living, because the self-care first model can only go so much until you expand to, but I want to grow my garden and I want to, actually live on the land. And what does that look like? And so the first course of that we're putting together this program is the holistic gardener course, where we walk people through step by step how to create and design a holistic garden for your region, your environment, for your time and energy levels, for whatever it is that your dream life looks like. And we've got a horticulturist and 15-year homesteader, Mary Andrews, literally walking you through every step of the process to do the research, to create that container for that part of your life, and really design and implement it, going forward. And so we help people really step by step create a bigger vision picture and how to get there. What's a really sustainable way to build that slowly over a few years in your life? So that course is, I'm really excited about it. We got to go out and film it last year. I got to go to Mary's homestead and 150 fruit tree garden last year and do all the filming and figure out how we're going to put this course together. And I have to say, I'm a little selfish. I put it together because I wanted to learn all those skills. I worked on farms for years and still couldn't figure out how to have my own herb garden. And so, getting the mentorship is something that I've always needed. I love the hands-on work of being out in the field and learning side by side with different teachers. And so this is what we've tried to reproduce and give people is that same exact experience that you can't necessarily always go move across the country like I had to do and work on different farms like I had to do to learn some of these skills. So we're trying to develop that holistic homesteader program, and this is one of the first classes that we're putting together for it. And then in the fall, we're doing a holistic pantry course with her, where we're actually teaching you food preservation, fermentation, storage, like what do you do with your harvest at the end of the year? And really moving forward with developing those courses in mushroom cultivation, beekeeping, and other amazing earth skills. So that's going to be really exciting.
Nice. So herbalism in the garden, hands-on, and herbalism in the kitchen, hands-on.
Yeah, I think everyone needs it.
Yeah, weaving herbs into your everyday life. I remember now that at the beginning, I haven't asked you yet about how you're weaving homesteading into your life. And I feel like the way that you're living is so interesting. And I would love for you to share that with our listeners.
Absolutely. So I spent the beginning of my herbal journey was actually learning to work on farms. And I found this program called WWOOFing, Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, where I got to travel around. I went to Hawaii. Some people go around the world. I went to Hawaii. It was really beautiful. And I got to go live on other people's homesteads and ranches and see what it was like to live close to the earth. And through that experience is actually how I found out about herbalism, by traveling with a friend's mom who's an herbalist. And she went around the state with us and was like, here's this tropical food forest, and here are these herbal plants that you can, the fruits, you let them rot and you drink the tonic and it's amazing health thing. And so that was, learning how people lived close to nature. It was the first time that I'd ever in my life experienced living outside for a period of time, hearing so many frogs that you almost couldn't go to sleep because it was like this astounding cacophony of a choir of frogs going off. And that experience changed my life forever. And so since then, I've been living on and off farms. I've tried building my own homesteads a couple of times, and I've now settled on this ranch called Artemisia Ranch. And we are a small collection of just people wanting to have fun earth skills. So the people that I live with, the landowners, they have goats, they make their own goat cheese, they take people on goat walks, they have a little hip camp. You guys can find them, hip camp, Artemisia Ranch. And it's just so much fun to, be with a group of people that love exploring and being outside every day. And so we have a tiny cabin, me and my partner. I've luckily met an amazing man who knows how to build solar systems and is an engineer and just crafts and creates things all the time. And we have a little community garden that we've been building and slowly figuring out how to really work with, we live in a pretty hostile weather environment on the top of the mountain. We get full desert, very little rain, and occasional freezes off and on for six months at a time. And so really getting to learn how to live, the way that we used to, where we get to see, the stars on a regular basis. I can't tell you how many students I have come up from LA and they're like, oh my God, there's stars here. And it kind of breaks my heart and melts my heart at the same time. I'm like, yeah, they've been here. It's really important that you see them. And so really getting to have that recharge time for me is essential. I get to go home, and breathe fresh air and not have fences around me. And, just I'm literally backing the backcountry and getting to go back from my backyard anytime I like. And so it's just a ton of fun. We're constantly building, creating, and just enjoying living off the land.
And then how are you running the school as well?
I'm very lucky. I get to create my own hours and my own lifestyle here. And so my partner still has a beach house, still has a house a few blocks from the beach, or not a house, an apartment, And so I spend half the week down here doing my city life. I spend half the week up there doing my country life, and I get to have both worlds, really the best of both worlds. And I'm doing this somehow in Santa Barbara, California, one of the most expensive cities in California to live in. And I do know how exactly lucky I am to have the life that I have right now. It's been a miracle.
Yeah. Well, thank you for weaving that picture for us, Emily, and thank you for taking us on a little bit of your journey. And I would also love to hear what have been some of your greatest challenges along this journey over the past 5 years of creating, nourishing, supporting this herb school, Artemisia Academy, and how have you overcome them, or how are you actively overcoming these challenges?
Um, I think like most small business owners, technology and online marketing is our skills. You know, I went to herb school. I didn't necessarily learn to become an online marketer or overnight. It's something I've been learning and growing into as I go. And I feel very fortunate that I've had amazing family to help support me through these challenges. My dad was a software engineer, and as he retired, he was like, "Here, let me help you with your website design." And he spent the last few years helping me, you know, learn a lot about the online marketing. I've had some of my best friends come to work for me and help me learn how to carve out a social media presence for the first time. And so all these challenges that I've had kind of these miraculous helpers step into my life. And you know, every single challenge that I've had amazing people show up to help out. And so some of my more recent challenges have been learning to grow into the legal side of the business. And you know, I've always been an above board and very conservative. I like to say conservative herbalist. I like to go, you know, as much as I can. You know, we live in a state where people get sued and real things happen. People have allergies to herbs all the time. And so, you know, I've from the very beginning had a very conservative approach of, you know, do no harm and do herbs last if you have to, you know, like just like I want to make sure people have the safest interaction with herbs at all times. And so, you know, I've been learning this last year how to really create the more necessity, how do I say it, the more essential side of the business, and how to, you know, grow into this legally and liability safety wise as much as I can. And so we've been exploring more about what it would be like to have more instructors, what it'd be like to have, you know, more guests and volunteers helping, and how we can do that as an organization and make sure that everyone's safe while they do it. So I think as a business owner yourself, you're probably learning that too, but it's been quite an interesting ride, with nonstop learning along the way.
Every so often, a younger herbalist or an aspiring herbalist asks me, how do I become an herbalist? Or is there a legal process to becoming an herbalist? Or, you know, those kind of questions. And I love what you said before about dream big and take small steps, one step at a time. And you will always be learning. There's no end of the road thing. There's no master herbalist. We're all students of everything, of life.
That's right. And with that, I always like to say it's really important to find good role models and mentors. And as much as I've spent time learning the herbal field, I've had to spend an equal amount of time, if not more time, learning the business side of the field. And
Yeah.
especially for people that are frustrated as herbalists, because we're creative thinkers. We don't think about the legal how-tos first. We think about them last. Let's just be honest. A lot of people. And so it's really important for people to look outside the box and find business models that will fit them in a different way. And all of us herbalists, we're carving out a whole new field. We're carving out a whole new existence and how to exist. And so I think it's so important to find people in other fields that, you know, maybe they're just like people that you find really inspiring on Instagram. Maybe they're people that are just rocking it in some other field, but to go and find mentors in as many fields as you need to really take back and figure out how can I be a sustainable, well off, comfortable, and happy with my life, passionate. How do I live a passionate life in a sustainable way? And so I had to spend a lot of my last 10 years, you know, I spent about 10 years learning herbs and natural healing, and I've spent now about 10 years learning business skills and having to really take my education in a different way. And I think for those who want to become herbalists, you need to know that you're going to have to learn both skill sets to really make it and really thrive in a way that you're satisfied by. So.
And in that vein, I would like to ask you a two-pronged question. What are 3 books that you love to recommend to beginning herbalists? And then what are 3 books that are particularly juicy for you right now?
Oh gosh. Okay. This is a diversified question. So for new herbalists, I think it's really important to find at least 1 or 2 materia medica books for your area. And I know for some people that might be very hard. For Southern California folks, I'm really excited. I brought the books out. Lanny Coffer, The Medicinal Herbs of California, a Falcon Guide. Lanny Coffer is an herbalist from Ojai who just came out with this fabulous treasure. And I love this book because it also talks about some botanical geekery, as well as the conservation information about different plants. And that's, I think, so important that, you know, we're talking more and more as people are getting into the herbalist world about, you know, everyone wants to wild harvest. Well, it's also really important to know when we shouldn't wild harvest. And so I love that that's a great guide for people that are new in this area. I also love Sue Reinhardt's book, The Medicinal and Poisonous Plants of the California Central and South Coast. She did herb walks in Santa Barbara for years, right before I started. She finally stepped down, and she kind of became one of my fabulous mentors as I started getting into teaching. And she's been handing me resources and handing my students resources for years. And then Michael Moore's The Herbs of the Mountain West. You might need to correct me on the exact title. The Medicinal Herbs of the Mountain West, or even of the Pacific states. I mean, Michael Moore was an herbalist that passed away before I started, but he was one of my superheroes. And I would stay up at night reading his stories and just nonstop be cracking up because he's just such a real guy about, you know, if you've got a bad stomach ache from staying up 2 nights drinking tequila after a Mexican wedding, this is the herb to use. And so I really always just appreciated him. And he was one of Howie's mentors as well, or best friends, I think, for many years. And so having a few herbalists that have both clinical experience as well as field experience, I think is really great. And okay, you asked me 2-pronged question. What are 3 ones that are relevant for me now? I can give you one. That's what I'm studying. Our schools also started a California Herbal Medics chapter. And so Herbal Medics is an organization based out of Texas, the Herbal Medics Academy by Sam and Suchel Kaufman. They've been setting up free clinics around the country and parts of the world to help support underserved communities. And so our students and other local community members have started our own chapter. And as part of that, we get to, you know, continue our own education. And I think as an herbalist, that's so important. And so I'm finally taking classes again. And so I'm taking Sam Kaufman's Herbal Medic courses, and his book is Herbal Medics, the Herbal Medic, I should say. And it's just been really fun. I'm taking my herbal knowledge to a whole new level by learning austere medicine, that's their program that they offer, and how to deal with herbs in emergency situations. And so, especially living on a ranch, being far away from hospital, I think it's essential that I learn more about herbal and wilderness first aid and really how to take care of emergency situations in a more professional way. So I'm really excited to be taking that course and to be reading that book.
I love continuing the thread of constant learning, continual learning, reaching out to mentors, and just deepening into the practice over time. Thank you so much for sharing those resources. And Emily, is there anything else that you would like to share with folks before we wrap it up for today?
I think I just want to bring home the idea of self-sustainability. And especially over the last few years, a lot of us have been really struggling to get by and struggling to get through. And I think it's really important now more than ever to carve out that priority time for your own healing. And so for those who are interested in figuring out where you need to focus on your own self-healing, we put together a little self-care quiz. I am a huge fan of taking little quizzes online. And so I finally made one. I was really excited. And so we have a self-care quiz that walks people through like the different areas of your life and where you might need to focus and exactly how to get laser focused with your own healing. And so if you guys are interested, you can go to artemisiaacademy.com, artemisiaacademy.ck.pages/self-care quiz. I'll make sure that that's in a link that you have, Jiling. And I think it's just so much fun to get those reminders and work with people that remind you to take care of yourself all the time. I know I appreciate people that help me remember to take care of me. I appreciate that so much. So we wanted to pass that forward to you guys too.
Fantastic. So, thank you so much, Emily. So lovely to chat with you. For those of you who probably don't know, I get the honor and the privilege of teaching with Emily's school and here in Ventura, where I've been here for almost 5 years now, but I still feel like kind of a newbie here, especially during the pandemic. It's been such a blessing to find other herbalists and a thriving herbal community here. So Emily, will you please share with us how to find you on social media and in the world?
Absolutely. We are on Instagram and Facebook. Actually, you can find us also on LinkedIn and all these other places. Instagram is our kind of main portal for everything fun. So at Artemisia Academy is where you can find us. And if you can't spell Artemisia, it's Artemis IA. So ARTEMISIA Academy. Artemisia Academy. Artemis is the Greek goddess, protectress of nature and women in need and children. And I don't know, love the Greek goddess Artemis. So Artemis IA Academy. And if you need to find us online, we're at www.artemisiaacademy.com.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to Tea Talks with Jiling on Herbal Radio. And you can learn more about me at jilinglin.com. And until next time, happy herbal adventures. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Jiling.
Thank you.